Our next unit in 7th grade language arts is going to be about verbs. So just like with the last video, as you're taking notes off of these slides, feel free to pause. You'll need to during the practice sections, and I will be checking your notes in class. Okay, so to start, you should remember from previous years that a verb is a word that expresses an action or a state of being and is necessary to make a statement. Okay, we've already spent time this year identifying subjects and verbs in sentences. So this basic definition shouldn't be too difficult for you to start with. Now, there are two main types of verbs. There are action verbs and then there are linking verbs. So an action verb tells what someone or something does. Okay? Now, you would think walking or running or hopping or skipping. There's lots of different actions that you could think about. But we're going to expand this definition a little bit because there are actually two subtypes of action verbs. Our two subtypes are considered transitive or intransitive, and every single action verb is going to be one or the other. Okay? Now, you have to think back to probably about October when we were going through and identifying direct and indirect objects during the roles which nouns play. Because if your action verb has a direct object, then it is going to be transitive. And if you need to remember the questions to find a direct object, those two questions are what or whom. An intransitive verb does not have a direct object. Okay? So it doesn't have anything. It might be ending the sentence with a prepositional phrase. So you could use the same steps that we used last time, where you mark the prepositional phrase first, and then you find the subject, and then you find the verb. Doing those different steps will help you figure this out. Now, if you look at the examples at the bottom of the slide, the first example, the tourists saw the ruins. We would know that there aren't any prepositional phrases, but our subject is tourists, and our action verb, which is already marked for you in green, is saw. And then if we ask, the tourists saw what, the direct object would be ruins. And because we have a direct object, then we know that saw is going to be a transitive verb. If we look at the second sentence and look for prepositional phrases first, during the night is our prepositional phrase. So we know we're not going to be able to find anything else in there. We have our preposition and the object of the preposition. Then we look for the subject. Our subject is going to be owls. To find the action verb, we ask what the owls are doing, and we have hooted, so we'll mark that, and again, it's already marked for you in green. But if we ask the owls hooted what or hooted whom, we can't answer either of those questions. There's nothing else in that sentence because we have the prepositional phrase at the end. So because the action verb does not have a direct object, it is considered to be intransitive. Let's do some practice. What I want you to do is to pause the video, and you are going to copy these three sentences. And then what I want you to do is what we just did. Find the subject, find the verb, mark the direct object if there is one, and then you need to tell me whether it is transitive or intransitive. Please pause the video now and do this. Okay, the next section is linking verbs. We had action verbs and then linking verbs. A linking verb is going to join our subject with our predicate, okay? And in the predicate, we can either have a predicate adjective or a predicate nominative or a predicate noun. We did this back in the jobs that nouns play also, okay? So you should remember some of this. Now, I let you write all of the linking verbs down before. The point of this unit is for you to remember them. So if we're thinking about linking verbs, they are typically forms of be. So that includes am, are, is, was, and were. However, there's other linking verbs that are not forms of be, and you'll see those in the boxes below. Now, in class, because I am not recording myself doing it, you will be learning the linking verb song, okay? And it's really important that you learn it So you have all of these different linking verbs memorized, and then it'll be really easy to remember all of them. Now, linking verbs sometimes are a part of a verb phrase, and if we attach a linking verb to another verb in a verb phrase, it is considered a helping verb, okay? So if we have he is walking down the hallway, is walking is a verb phrase. So even though is a form of be, that would be a linking verb. Since it's not alone, it is helping walking, and so it's considered a helping verb. You may have also heard this called an auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verbs and helping verbs are the exact same thing. It just depends on the terminology that you're using, okay? And from picking up from that, you should know that a verb phrase consists of a main verb and all of its helping verbs, because sometimes there's more than one. So in the two examples, you have who was talking. Was talking would be our verb phrase, and the bird is flying. Is flying would be our verb phrase. And again, to relate back, was and is in those phrases are considered helping verbs because they're helping the primary verb with it. Okay? Our last part, forgot we have some practice. So again, I want you to copy these sentences down, pause the video, and then in the sentences, you need to identify the subject, and then you need to identify the linking verb or the verb phrase. And then if you can remember how, I'd like you to try to mark the predicate nouns and the predicate adjectives. And again, we'll be checking these practice sentences in class tomorrow. Pause and do that now, and then we'll go on to our last part. Okay, the last part is understanding the different tenses and different forms of verbs. Now, if we look at the first row, okay, we're going to deal with the verb rain for all of these. You should know that the simple present tense form of the verb rain is rain. Okay, the directions for this is that you just have the verb and you just have rain, because that's all there is. But if you want to put it in past tense, like it rained yesterday, to make it past, you should remember that you add ed to the end of the verb, which would make it rained. If we're talking about tomorrow, like it will rain tomorrow, the other way you can introduce it in future tense is shall rain. Okay, it shall rain tomorrow. You would just add will or shall to the beginning of the regular verb. Okay, you've been doing this since you were probably in first or second grade, so that part you probably have down. What we're moving into is looking at progressive and perfect tenses. And this is where we have different verb phrases where we're adding either in parts of be or other helping verbs. Okay? So in progressive form, you're always going to be adding some form of be. So if it's present tense, you're going to add a present tense form of be. So is or are before the actual verb, and then you're going to add ing to the ending of the verb. So it is raining. Okay? For past tense, it's very similar, but you use a past tense form of be, but you still keep ing. All right? So it was raining yesterday. You still know it happened in the past. It happened yesterday. You just have that ing on at the end. And then for future tense, you're still going to add will or shall, just like you would with any other verb to show future. But then you're always going to use just be, not a form of be, the actual word be, the verb, and then ing. So it will be raining tomorrow. It shall be raining tomorrow. The last way that you can do this is what's called perfect tense, okay, or perfect form of the verb. So in perfect present tense, what you do is you're going to use the helping verbs have or has at the beginning, and then even though it's in present tense, you're adding ed to the end of the verb. So I know that sounds a little strange, okay? It has rained today, okay? So it's still in present tense. It's something that has happened in that single day. The has or the have, based on whatever subject you had before that, is what lets you know that it's still in present tense. The ed isn't what's changing the verb, okay? The has, the helping verb, which is why you have it, is what's dictating the tense, okay? For perfect past tense, you're going to use the past tense form of has, which is had, and then you're going to add ed to the verb, and that's typical. You're probably used to doing that. So it had rained yesterday. Okay? It had rained earlier today. And then the last way is with future perfect tense. And so you will add will or shall at the beginning. You'll always use the word have. Then you're going to have the verb, and you're going to add ed on the end. So by the end of tomorrow, it will have rained. By the end of tomorrow, it shall have rained. Now this last part is pretty difficult, so you're not going to do practice on your own with it quite yet. But what I want you to make sure you have is this entire chart copied down. It might not be a bad idea to use highlighters, so how I have different colors, you have different colors. And we're going to do some practice with this in class the next few days. Thank you so much. Make sure you have your notes together for tomorrow, and we will go over all of them.